As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 26 of Zero to Hero. Today, we are joined by the founder of Athlete Fit, which is a youth athletic development company. His name is Scott Moody, and let's go ahead and bring him in. Scott Moody and Kevin Kwok.
Hey, Scott, thanks for joining us for the Zero to Hero. How are you doing?
Great to be here. Great to be here.
So tell us a little more about your organization.
So we've been in business for 23 years now, located in Kansas City. Started out as a kind of a jump training, return to sport development company, and have kind of morphed into some sports specific realms over time, working the physical aspects of sport with the psychological and the technical aspects, and kind of weaving it all together for the youth development aspects.
Okay, awesome. So how long were you coaching prior to this, or tell us a little more?
So I actually, I always wanted to be an architect. So I went to school for architectural engineering, played football in college at Louisiana Tech, and kind of fell in love with the weight room aspects and the training aspects. And, decided about halfway through my major, just wanted to kind of shift gears and, got into, took a GA opportunity in the weight room, took a couple of strength coach jobs at universities, worked a little bit in physical therapy, was a kind of an exercise specialist there. And then over time, just started to figure out I wanted a little bit more autonomy. I wanted a little bit more control over what we were doing. Wanted to explore some different ideas and went out on my own, and we've been doing it ever since. So it's actually worked out really well.
Awesome. So in couple sentences, give me an elevator pitch about yourself. Who is Scott?
Interesting. I am, I would really consider myself an introvert. I like my alone time. I like to read, write, explore new concepts and discover and try to innovate as much as I can. I like to explore a lot of new ways of doing things and learn from others, but try to create my own path as well. So pretty much would consider myself an innovator that needs time and autonomy to kind of discover new things.
That's awesome. And I mean, no better way than being an entrepreneur, right?
Right. So I've had to start my own businesses so that I have a little bit more control over that, but have had a lot of help along the way as well.
So since Zero to Hero is about, we all start at zero, no matter at birth or on social media as well. And being a digital marketing agency, I always ask, tell us a little about your social media journey.
Social media got started. I didn't know anything about it. I was just randomly posting, things from time to time, and created a little bit of a following. I always thought I wanted to be, I'm more of a teacher, more of an educator. So I would put out more educational posts that didn't seem to get as much traction. And then I would throw out something humorous, some of our outtake videos from some of the things that got a ton of traction. So I would consider myself, confused as far as how social media actually works. But I do like to just kick out things from time to time and try to, give the people what they want, but also I really just want to teach. I want to share the information, share the knowledge, and get feedback from that. So.
No, and I think it's so important because sometimes I think on our social media journey, a lot of people, especially introverts. I'm kind of an introvert myself too, right? And you just kind of dive in, you dabble, but I'm not an extrovert where I'm just sharing out there, engaging with everyone. So first I started, it was really to look for a job or to communicate, with friends and family and, share information that I've learned throughout my career. And I think it's neat because I think it's similar with you. You're out there to educate people, to give value, right?
Right. And I grew up not in the social media age, no cell phones, no internet, things like that. So I, would not consider myself an expert in social media, just kind of exploring it with everybody else.
That's awesome. So every superhero has a defining moment. What is yours when it comes to life and career?
Defining moment. I think it was the time that I decided to step out on my own and break away from from being an employee and starting my own business from scratch. I think that was probably the defining moment and exciting. But it really showed me that I had the courage to go out and do that. And as soon as I started getting the feedback from the clients that we had and word of mouth started to spread, just kind of built the confidence. And I'm glad I had the courage to step out on my own and chase my own passions.
That's awesome. What are the attributes that define a hero?
Attributes that define a hero. I think the commitment to others, looking to provide service, impact others over self, I think is a defining characteristic of a hero. Just the lack of ego and the desire to help.
Okay. So what are things you find challenging when you're working with athletes most of the time? What is that one mental block that you feel a lot of athletes have that separates, people that become all-stars versus, someone that just plays a sport?
Very interesting that you bring that up. I've recently had this conversation with multiple players. Um, I work with some professional athletes. I also work with some youth athletes, elementary, middle school athletes. So I see the full spectrum. And the difference between the pros and I'd even say high school athletes, even the high level high school athletes, is just the attention to detail, the very specifics. The professional athletes slow things down so much. They move slower in training because they want to master the specifics. They're looking for just the technical aspects to be perfected. Where the high school athletes typically want to play faster. They're told we need to move at higher speeds, think faster, play faster. But to do that, we need to find our balance, find our rhythm, find our just our sweet spot, get in that flow. And most of the time, the high school athletes just move too fast, and we need to slow things down, focus on the details. What is it specifically about this that is important? Let me focus on that. And then how am I going to apply that, in a game situation? And I think that's the missing link between the two. So if you are a young athlete and you can slow things down and focus on the details, mastering the specifics, getting feedback from a professional and really asking questions, that's the biggest difference between the pro mentality and the average player mentality.
So as we're talking about this, I don't know why, because we're talking about superheroes in general, right? So I just had this image where, the guy that runs really fast, right? Like stay to in the movies is always everything's in slow motion. and he's able to like catch the bullet and do all the stuff but at the same time, it's because he's so quick, right? He can readjust everything. And same thing with the Flash, right?
Yep.
And I think this applies to, I feel, entrepreneurs and any high performers, right? I feel it doesn't, not just athletes, but also everyday people that are really good at something, they master one craft.
Right.
And you see there's people that are gurus or whatever, they just focus on one aspect of business or marketing or a certain thing. They're not a do-it-all, right? Because my parents always tell me you can do everything and become a master of none.
Right.
You know, and there's so many people like, I'm Asian. So, you know, like in the Asian culture, there's people who make noodles or roast duck or whatever, but it tastes so good because this guy's been doing it since he's 12 years old. And they do the same thing. They boil the same, you know, bowl of ramen from the time they're 12 years old and they're 80. So they're going to be really good at it, you know? And I think that's what we need to look at. I think sometimes we move to the next thing. And I see this a lot in even career, right? People jump from one thing to another. And it's like, hey, but we've never mastered anything, right? We're just jumping. But I think if you want to get really good at something, you look at the details. And it's funny because I used to be a natural bodybuilder, and so I competed, right? And so I learned how to, and I did powerlifting. So I learned how to lift and stepped on stage and bodybuilding thing. And recently I've been having what you call tech neck. Is where your neck hurts because I'm on the computer all day, right? And it hurt so bad it started shutting down my spine and everything. And I would say I understand how to work out because I've worked out pretty much all my life up until I was in my, you know, mid-20s. I was still competing. And then so, but I went to a PT, you know, to figure out what's wrong with my neck. And it's the little details that he's showing me, exercises that I never knew about, that's starting to relieve the pain. And it's just small exercises that he showed me how my neck is connected to my back and my spine and everything else. But it's such a subtle little stretch that you wouldn't think would help. And it transforms everything. And I think that's the difference between high performance athletes. They have people that are also constantly helping them analyze, like, hey, are you right dominant, left dominant? And then it's the little details that trigger a better shot, for example, if you're playing basketball or the way you throw. Yep.
I think two things that you hit on there that I want to come back and like double click on just a little bit. You talked about the details, of course, but you talked about each person has a defining characteristics. We're all individuals. And if we can figure out what makes us unique and then chase the uniqueness, look, not to try to be a master of everything, but try to figure out what our key skill sets, our rare and valuable skills are, and then go be the best we can possibly be at that. So that's what I try to get my athletes to figure out is it's not about being good at everything or being able to do everything. It's about figuring out what you do well and doing it better than anybody else. And that's the attention to detail and the focus. And I think that's a big difference between those that become successful and those that just kind of become average. So it's those things. And then the second thing is slowing down and being able to read the game a little faster. A lot of players play too fast, and the greatest athletes in the world, the fastest athletes in the world, will tell you that they never went full speed in a game because they had to be able to read and adjust to the situation as it unfolded. And I think that's the other thing, is playing within yourself, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're great at, and then trying to set up a situation where you can use your strengths to the best of your ability based on the circumstances of the situation.
And then, majority of sports are team sports, right? So you have to
Hmm.
find those components, right? Hey, if you're weak at something, someone else is strong at, right? And it's putting together that team,
And
in
that's
order
and
to
that's
do
where
it.
and that's where and that's where ego comes in, and just having no ego and knowing that my team can help me in these areas and I can help the team in these areas, and not trying to go outside of your unique and valuable impact on that team.
And I think a lot of times people forget, right? Success comes in small incrementals,
Hmm.
right? And the same thing, like in our industry, marketing, a lot of times people expect that we wave a magic wand and we're going to drive business to your website or, within a month or two, right? But success in marketing is very similar to sports because I play sports most of my life. It happens in small increments, right? You don't go work out today and expect a six pack abs.
Right.
Is you do it daily. And when we were talking about the social media journey, right? It's the same thing. Like we don't come on social media and all of a sudden you're 30,000 followers. It takes time. It's in small incremental, and you have to enjoy the journey. And I think as we're talking, I think the high performers understand they love the journey, because if you listen to any of Kobe Bryant's interview, they're just doing what they do every day
Right.
until game
Right.
time. It's not something new to them. And they ask them, like, why are you not nervous and stuff? And Kobe will tell you, this is a shot I've done over 1,000 times during
Yep.
practice. So it's,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely about the journey, and I think it's about collecting experiences along the way.
yep.
And as you reach out, gain new experiences, try different things, you learn through reflection on those experiences. So you reflect on, how did that make me feel? How did I do? Did I enjoy it? Was I motivated by it? And that's how we get more clarity around our identity. And that's how we gain the knowledge, is through the reflection on those experiences, I think. And if we
That's,
can learn to enjoy the day-to-day grind, um, and it becomes not a grind, but something that we look forward to every day, I think that's what you really want to be successful.
so if Scott to pay, who do you best relate to
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
and
To
why?
kind of cut out.
If
Could
you
you
had
repeat
to
that?
pick a superhero, yep. If you had to
Yes.
pick a superhero that relates best to you, who would that be
My
and why?
kids, my kids ask me this all the time. So I, they always say Batman. They always say Batman. I I like Batman a lot, just because I think he's human. He doesn't really have a superpower, other than he's rich, I guess. But just the problem solving, the ways to figure out things, um, I just like the human side of the Batman character, and the kind of dual personality. So I really relate well to the Batman character.
That's awesome, man. So, what's one thing? So, if since you work with younger athletes too, how do they get there? Yeah, how do they get to that mindset? What are things that you can encourage the audience? Even to how do you become above average?
Um, yeah, good question. No, I think it to start down this process. I think you need to set a goal, um, and whatever that goal may be. And then I think the most important thing is to look at the steps required to achieve that goal. Lay out the process, figure out the path that you're going to take, and then forget about the goal. Don't chase numbers. Don't chase wins. Don't chase championships. Those are all about luck. Uh, and instead chase the process, the steps. Create daily habits that are aligned with those steps. Uh, get it to the point where you don't have to think about that. You just automatically do it. It's just part of your daily routine. and then find an environment that caters to that, whether it's a coach, whether it's teammates, whether it's friends, mentors, where they can give you feedback along the way, help refine some of those things. And then as you're doing this, you'll find that if you just chase the steps, you'll overshoot your goals. And I think it was I think I heard Emmanuel Acho say the other day on a podcast that goals, and I won't put it as eloquently as he put it, they hinder you. They're actually bad. They if you just look at a goal, you may hit that goal, but what could you have achieved had you just focused on the process along the way? And you probably would have ended up overshooting that goal. So you can't just stop at the goal. That limits our ability. So have a goal, have a direction, but then look at the process, experience things, figure out your unique and valuable skills, and then chase those, master those, collect small wins along the way, and create good habits, and you'll overshoot your goals.
And I 100% agree, because I think sometimes when you put a number or a certain thing in your mind, you're already telling yourself, this is, once I get there, it's done, right? This is the ceiling. But if you don't put a number, then you might be able to achieve beyond that ceiling.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick? We call it a records board mentality. So we used to have a records board up in our facility, and it had, top 5 scores in all of these tests, and we would test, once a month, and everybody looked forward to testing days. But what we figured out was they were chasing the number on the board. They weren't necessarily chasing improvements in performance. And so they would figure out little ways to cheat the test, whether it was reaching for the finish line in our electronic timing things, or holding their feet up on the jump mass test just a little bit longer. And so their form was being sacrificed to chase the numerical target. And so we pretty much stopped using that records board because everybody was just chasing the numbers. They that's not the real reason they were there. The real reason they're there is to improve on the field. So I had somebody ask me not too long ago, well, how do you know if they're getting better? And I'm like, you just ask them. Just ask them. They'll tell. I mean, they come back with feedback. I feel so much faster in the game. My parents are saying I look quicker. I'm doing this. I'm performing better. Okay, that's the only result I care about. I don't care about the numbers. As long as you're playing better, that's the result we're chasing. So subjective.
That's so good. Yep. And I think this applies to every aspect of life, not just athletes, right? I think in business, I've noticed, you see organizations that chase numbers, right? But at the same time, it sometimes limits them. And then the true entrepreneurs, the guys that you see that are doing the billions, right? And if you listen to a lot of their podcasts, they say the exact same thing. Right. They were just doing their thing, and then it just kind of happens. Right. Right. If you listen to Elon, he was just doing his thing. He's just inventing and creating stuff because he's doing what he's passionate about. And it just happens he became the wealthiest man. It wasn't like his game plan to become the wealthiest man. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in these routine strategies. And I always say my old corporate life, I don't think I went to my job to do work. I went to my job to go to meetings. And, half of my 8 to 5 was really in meetings talking about stuff, but we never did it. We never executed because we're always talking. And by the time we executed, that strategy didn't even apply anymore because the world has moved on. And it's like, oh, let's scrap it. And then we go back to meetings again. So it never made sense to me. But the beauty's in the journey. And and you got to love the processes, but you got to execute, right? It's executing daily.
Yep.
And that's how you get there. Yep.
I have one more thing that just popped into my head on, the difference between the elite performer and the average performer. A lot of coaches, especially in soccer, in basketball too, they ask for creative problem solvers. They want their players to be creative problem solvers. But how do you develop creativity? Nobody knows. And so the kids come to me and they're like, I need to be more creative. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I think creativity starts with being extremely efficient at the required skills. So you have to automate those required technical skills, patterns of movement, whatever it might be. But it starts with efficiency in the essentials. And then you need to look at versatility in the non-standard actions. What happens under different conditions? How do I alter these things? And if we don't let our athletes experience a slight alteration in the drill, if we don't ask them to react to things differently, if we don't let them explore new patterns, then they stay in that standardized action instead of exploring the non-standard actions that are going to happen in games, the chaos and the where creativity starts to emerge. And then all of a sudden, when you start exploring those non-standard actions, I find this with myself all the time. You're like, oh, wow, that actually worked better. Oh, that's cool. That I didn't expect that to happen. Didn't even see it coming. Why did you do that? And they're like, I don't know. It just kind of happened. And then you embrace that, and that creates originality. And once you have that original identity, now they can start to execute those things with less thought, more freedom, and without the fear of being reprimanded or criticized for their attempts. So if we want our athletes to be creative, we have to give them the freedom to explore. If we don't give them that freedom, they're not going to be creative.
Yep. And I think this applies in the workplace too. I think a
Mhm.
lot of times we're giving, hey, this is your job description and this is how you do it, right? And we leave zero room for really, to make it fit that person who's at the job, right? Is allowing them to have that creativity to expand on, because we're telling them how to do this job and this is the only way to do it. But hey, there might be a better way, right? And then we complain, why aren't they achieving their goals, right?
Right.
And a lot of times because we're limiting, how they can achieve the goals, because there's different ways to accomplish it. Yeah.
And I think that's also the problem with schools right now is there's so much reliance on memorization of the isolated facts. And that's just the regurgitating someone else's knowledge, which I think some people call the illusion of knowledge, instead of, asking deeper questions. I speak for the National Strength and Conditioning Association all the time, and I'm not certified by the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So they always ask me, hey, when are you going to take this test? And I joke with them and I say, give it to me as an essay test, not a multiple choice. And I'll gladly take it. But there's so much, it depends in there. There's so much gray area that I want to explore that I think that's where the educational system certifications, let's explore the subjective, let's explore the interesting, let's have new ideas, let's get creative with the way that we approach things, instead of just spitting back the same knowledge that has been spit out for the past few decades.
No, that's so good. And I know a while back I was reading a study on India, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like India has they're high achievers. They have very good grades, right? They're able to do really good math and sciences. So my background is software engineering, right? So they were saying that India actually have from a numbers perspective, right? From a grade level, like they blow it out of the water in Ivy League schools and different things like that. But the way they teach everything, it forces the students to memorize things, right? Yep. Versus here in the U.S., some of the developers might not go by traditional ways of coding or whatever. And after college, they might have B and C students, but they're the ones that, working for Facebook or Apple, and that they do more, right? They create, they have innovation. So I think that's huge, because it goes along with what you're saying, Scott.
Yes, we have to explore. We have to reflect on our experiences, and we have to look outside the box to find our own uniqueness. And I think that's what's killing a lot of the young developing athletes right now is they feel like they're locked into a box. They're afraid to make a mistake, and I think it's just wrecking them emotionally. And so I find that my job right now is probably 50% psychology and 50% physiology. It's I deal with a lot of different emotional issues every day with the clients that I work with. And it's just trying to get them to understand it's okay to be unique. It's okay to be different. It's okay to explore and create. I'm not going to criticize you for making a mistake. We're going to learn from it and we're going to move on. And just having
Do,
that type of success.
do you feel, Scott, young athletes have more mental battles today than it was when we were growing up?
Yeah, I never knew. And maybe we just talk about it more, but I mean, everybody struggles with depression and anxiety and things like that, and that's been around. And maybe it's just more on the forefront now. But I've never seen so many athletes that are just depressed, not enjoying sport as much as they used to, and they openly admit to it. And it's just I think it's a lot of pressure. It's just a lot of forcing them into you know set actions and being afraid to make mistakes and so much pressure to perform. And I just back in when I was growing up, we just played. You just there wasn't as much pressure, I feel like. But I don't know. I think it's more than it used to be.
Yep. Yeah, I was just talking to another performance trainer the other day. We had lunch together, and he was talking about, we learn to get hurt. We climb trees.
Hmm.
Kids play, they wrestle. Nowadays, they aren't doing those things, right? A lot of kids don't even want to go out and play. They want to be on their iPads. But then they just go practice, right,
Right.
for sports. And then they
Hmm.
come home, they're back on their iPad. And they're not interested in really just playing outside. Used to, we go play pickup games. Nowadays is, hey, dad, take me to the gym. And this is I have a 10-year-old, right? They don't play just outside anymore. It's like, oh, take me to the gym. I go, why can't you just play outside in the driveway with your neighbors? Oh, no one wants to play.
See, and I think that is the underlying problem in society. That there's value in play. There's value in the imaginative exploration. You know, um, Looking at it with what we say a childlike view of what if. Just uh, what else can I do with this stuff that I've been provided? It's looking outside the box, and I feel like a lot of people just can't do that anymore because they didn't develop that skill as children.
That's great. So, Scott, before we end today, what's the best way to follow you for our audience?
You can follow me on. I don't post as much as I should, but all my social media channels, Twitter and Instagram, are at Athlete Fit Coach, and you can reach me that way. You can message me on the website athletefit.com, which is in the middle of a redesign. So I apologize if it's not as built out as it needs to be, but it will be in the future.
Well, I appreciate you today, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
For sure.